Are you training for a fall marathon during the summer months? I know I am, and I bet you would like to know more about how to train in the hot summer months and still have a successful marathon training cycle. That is what we're talking about today. Welcome to episode 231 on the Healthy Runner podcast, where we help you get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And I have our marathon expert, Coach Lou, back on the show from our Healthy Runner coaching team to answer your summer marathon training questions. Welcome back on the show, Lou. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing very well. Just ran a couple marathons and having fun. And I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, when someone says they ran a couple of marathons, typically they're kind of maybe talking about like the year. Lou is literally talking about literally within the last 3 days. Do you mind sharing what marathons you did run?
Well, I'm on this journey to run 50 states. And on Saturday, I was running the marathon at Fargo, North Dakota. I was a 3:25 pacer. And then I drove to 10 hours to Wyoming, Casper, and ran the Casper Marathon. All these are pacing. On Casper, I was pacing slightly slower group, 5-hour group, and I hit both time and made a few friends and helped a few people run their marathons. I'm very happy.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And you are amazing because we've talked about this before of how many marathons you have done. And, many of them have been done helping others like accomplish their marathon goals, which I think is just truly amazing. And then it also allows you to kind of knock off some of those states, right? And see some different areas of the country, which is just like amazing. As we get into today's topic of like marathon training per se, how many marathons would you say you've actually trained for and raced?
I typically only train for 1 or 2 marathons at most per year. On average, only 1 marathons per year. And yes, I did some marathons, but these are quote base building time. So I just run as a long run. I'm also training for ultra, so I have a lot of mileage on my feet. So these are, yes, I have the distance, but it's not all out a race. It's just a long run. And so I'm training for only 1 or 2 marathons hard per year.
All right. I'm glad you clarified that. For number one, our mutual friend Tom down in North Carolina, I was on the phone with him 2 weeks ago, and he was joking with me on how he commented on one of your posts after you did like marathons close together. So he'll appreciate you clarifying that point. And I'm glad that you clarified that for other listeners, that you're not kind of getting too far out of your wheelhouse. You are really working on getting kind of the time on your feet and kind of getting those miles in. And you've definitely been gradually building up in the years that I've known you for the last 4 years. And it's truly remarkable. And it's definitely a testament to your resilience and strength. And, the fact that you do strength training to complement your running, I think has been really neat to be able to see how many of these marathons you have been able to complete and have been able to pace this last year. So besides the marathons that you've actually trained for, if you had to roughly guesstimate, how many, marathons have you helped others achieve through coaching?
Probably
It's got to be in the hundreds by
50,
now, right? No?
I don't know.
I would say hundreds by now.
Probably a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you've definitely run a lot more than I have, certainly. I've done 4 marathons now, but I've helped definitely hundreds of runners like attain their marathon dreams. So just to give some context for our listeners today, and really today's topic is relating to specifically marathon training in the summer. And we did put out a call for questions, whether it is through email, through our social media. And really, we've compiled these questions to really answer your summer marathon questions that you guys want to know. And I'm excited to get into these because I kind of briefly look at the questions, but I don't really think about any of my responses to the question. So I think these are always fun because we get in some nice dialogue, and I always love to get into Coach Lou's brain. And just for those of you, 2 quick announcements that I do have before we get into answering your questions is that there is a bonus download to this episode. We have our marathon training guide for beginner and advanced runners with longevity in mind. So this is the marathon training guide that is designed to cater to both beginner and advanced marathon runners who are seeking to achieve their marathon goals while prioritizing longevity and minimizing the risk of injuries. And this resource is filled with a ton of video, podcast episodes, trainings, teaching you the principles of marathon mindset, base building, strength training, nutrition, gradual progression, adequate rest and recovery, and well-rounded training to support your long-term running journey. You can get that download in the show notes or just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/marathon. And then the other thing is that we are now open for marathon specific one-on-one coaching for fall marathon training. So whether you're running Chicago, Hartford, locally here in Connecticut, New York, Marine Corps, or your local marathon, and you've struggled with nagging injuries every time that you've tried to train for a marathon, and you just can't seem to have that breakthrough marathon, like I really was able to experience last fall when I ran the Cape Cod Marathon, then this is the program for you to get over that hump. And you're going to get not only the structured strength and run plan for marathon training to not only crush your marathon goal, but you're going to stay healthy and really be able to get to that finish line feeling strong. And that, if that sounds like, something that you would want to be able to attain this fall, then you can apply for our signature coaching program. Before the slots fill up, just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. Like I said, availability is limited, so be sure to grab your spots by hopping on my calendar, and we'll see if you're a good fit for the program. And if you are, then we talk about what it would look like to work together to make your marathon dreams a reality. All right. So those are all the announcements I have, Lou. Let's get into this summer marathon training and answering our listener questions. First question that I have for you is, do you think it's harder to train in the summer for a marathon or in the winter?
Well, define you. If the you is you, and probably you, I mean, Coach Duane, Coach Lou, probably we will like to train summer rather than winter, but Coach Cat, definitely winter runner. So it depends. And then if this U is for a runner, then it depends, because depending on where you live. If you're living in the southern states, Florida, then winter is perfect for training. But if you're living somewhere here, then summer may not be too bad, so you can do that summer training. So it depends which weather is less, let's say, is less tolerable or it's less severe. That's a better time to train. Or we can always find a way to train through it. That's actually part of the focus today. We're gonna talk about how can you train in really, really extreme weather. We have some question coming there. So yeah. To summarize, for me, it's harder to train in winter than summer. But for a runner, it depends on where you're located at, and people are different too. Some people may be more tolerable for some people may be able to tolerate heat a little better than cold, and vice versa. So it all really depends.
Yeah, and I would totally agree that the goal is consistency, right? Consistency is key in your training. So whether it is winter, whether it's summer, what is the season that you can be most consistent? And like Lou said, it depends upon all those variables on where you actually live. What is your tolerance? Some people just, can't tolerate running in the heat. Some people just can't tolerate running in the cold, and or they can't run in the dark, and the days are shorter in the winter, so it's really hard to get their training in. And I know, Lou, you've talked about it before, depending upon, what your race goals are. If you are doing hard marathon training, advanced marathon training, you're doing a lot of speed work, sometimes that's really hard to do when it's really cold.
It takes a long time to warm up, and it's easier to get injured if you are not properly warmed up.
Right. Yeah. So it definitely, I'm sure we're going to be saying this many times today, that it does depend. And you guys know yourselves best and what avenues. And today we're going to talk about like utilizing the treadmill, whether it is for summer or whether it's for winter, because if you have on your, on your schedule that you need to do like a tempo run and it's a sheet of ice outside where you live in the winter, and it's not melting for a couple of days, like it's impossible to get that speed work in outside. Right. So you're going to have to utilize a treadmill. And then same thing in the summer, if there is a heat wave, right, and you actually have, 90 plus degree temperatures, heat index in the hundreds, if you're in Texas or Florida, California, Arizona, and then you're not going to be getting those speed workouts outside anyway. So I would agree, whatever season you're going to be most consistent in, and whatever season that is going to give you the most access to like trainable days, right? I think that's the key.
So in that sense, you want to choose a race according to where you can train. Well, we're going to talk about some method to help you keep the consistency, but if those methods apply or doesn't apply to you, if they apply to you or vice versa, so you figure out the best season you can train, then you assign them, you sign up for your goal marathon based on that.
All right.
And
excellent.
Also you want to when we talk about the train, we are kind of saying that like serious training, going hard, but a lot of us, and it's also for general health, it's better to keep the consistent training throughout the year. So even when the weather is really bad, you can do easier runs. Say winter when it's slippery, instead of doing tempo run, you can do an easy run. So it's still kind of going, but just harder to get the workout in. Just to clarify this.
Perfect. Thank you. And I figured that was a nice little opener question. And the rest of the questions are really organized into a couple different buckets here. So just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to really kind of compile all the questions that you asked, really weather specific or weather related to summer heat type questions. And then we'll get into like training specific questions in the summer. And then, we'll get into an injury question that someone asked related to the summer, and we'll see how far we get, Lou. We have some gear questions, and we had a lot of hydration related questions. However, I don't want to steal the thunder for an upcoming episode with Coach Whitney that we're going to get all into summer running gear. And then with Brooke, our registered dietitian for runners, Brooke's going to get into really summer specific hydration, electrolytes, fueling. So I don't want to steal their thunder too much. So we'll see how we're doing on time. I might save. So if you guys submitted your questions, don't think I just ignored them. If you don't hear your question answered today, I will definitely ask Coach Whitney or ask Brooke during those upcoming episodes that will be released within the next month. All right. So let's get into the weather specific summer heat related questions. And the first one that I have that was submitted is, I hear about dew point, but I'm not sure how to read that and what to be looking for in terms of dew point. Can you explain what that means and when I should be concerned?
Okay, so this geeky part of me comes out. I try to search for dew point, and there's so many people talk about that, but there's never a good explanation of it. You can find that in textbooks, you can find that everywhere, but run a podcast talk about that. But I wasn't able to find a clear and easy term about that to explain what dew point is. So I really look forward to share this knowledge with everyone. I did my research. Dew point is the temperature when the when we start to sweat. So it's when that moisture near our skin becomes sweat. What does that mean? That means let's say if you when you exercise, the skin get hot and hotter and hotter. If that doesn't sweat, then you just keep getting hotter and you're not feeling good. So when it sweats, then that's when the cool down starts. So if the dew point is low, say in the 40s, 50s, then your body temperature rises, and then it quickly at a temperature 40 to 50, it already becomes sweat. So you're already cooling down. That's why it's comfortable. When the dew point is higher, you don't sweat as much. So let's say dew points say 90. That means the temperature of the skin gets up to 80, 90. Then until then it starts to sweat. So essentially your skin is at a temperature of 80 to 90. That's close to our body temperature. So you don't get cooled down almost not at all. Our body temperature is about 98. So that's why it's uncomfortable. So you can a simple way to understand it may not be exactly scientific correct, but pretty close. Is that essentially it's a temperature of skin. So if the temperature of skin is lower, you feel more comfortable. If the temperature of your skin is higher, you are not comfortable. So that's what it is. So dew point, that's why it's important when we talk about the temperature. Temperature is really high, but if it's really dry, you can imagine the sweat just go off, so it cools down again. That's why the dew point can be low, even though the temperature is high if it's dry. On the other hand, let's say it's quote unquote only 60, but the humidity is 100%. So you can't sweat. Then the dew point can be close to 60, even though the temperature is 60. So then the sweat doesn't leave your skin until 60 degrees, and it's not that comfortable. So this is why we talk about dew point rather than the temperature.
I love that. And I just love hearing different versions of this because it is definitely a concept that I've been trying to wrap my brain around as well. And in episode 229 in the podcast, we talked about heat acclimation with Dr. Mani Alavi, and his explanation, and then with your explanation, in my brain, I'm kind of putting both of them together. And that was great. I think that was actually a very good example that you gave, because a lot of times we are surprised about our race performance, especially for a marathon, right? If the temperature is 60, you're like, oh, that's pretty good conditions, like 60 degrees. Hey, great race day. Not ideal. Like in the 50s is probably ideal for most people, or even upper 40s for a marathon. But you're like, okay, it's not going to affect me too much. But if the dew point is 60 to 64 degrees, like you can expect your race times to be slower. And it's exactly what Lou just mentioned, is because basically there's too much moisture in the air. So when your skin goes through sweat to cool your body down, the sweat does not evaporate into the air because it's not dry. It's actually wet. The air's wet. It feels humid. And now the sweat literally just like sits on your skin and does not evaporate. So it can't do its function and cool your body off. So it affects our performance, right? So the effort level feels harder. You can't maintain your marathon pace that you were doing in training. And you're like, what the heck is going on? It's only 60 degrees outside. But if that dew point's higher, now your body is not able to cool itself. So now it's starting to overheat. Effort level goes up. Eventually it's going to catch up to you, right? It's going to catch up to you at some point if you haven't adjusted your pacing strategy. And you're going to be wondering, hey, why couldn't I hit my marathon pace at mile 20 and beyond? It is because the dew point was higher and you didn't kind of account for that difference. So I love that explanation, Lou. Thank you very much. Hopefully this provided a little clarity to those of you who are still trying to wrap your brains around this. We do have a handy little table cheat sheet that we have put together that can function as a guide in looking at, do you need to actually, because this is an important really concept, and Dr. Mani Alavi talked about this for both the last Boston, that was hotter than normal, and then New York City Marathon 2 years ago, that was extremely hot, and there was a lot of carnage on the course going on, is if you go out for the race that is way too hot with the paces you trained and your goal that you expected, like you will bonk, and it is going to be really hard on you that day. So being smart from the beginning and adjusting your paces will actually allow you to feel strong and be able to like be passing people at the end of the race. So we have a nice little cheat sheet that we use, but I'll just rattle this off again. If you go to our website, sparkhealthyrunner.com, in the blogs, I will always post this graphic. I have it like saved image on my phone in my favorites because I'm always constantly referring to it because I'm not a numbers guy and I always forget the numbers. But just kind of speaking these out loud to you listening to the podcast, 50, really anything less than 60-degree dew point is not going to affect you much, right? Like 55 to 59, hard efforts likely not affected at all. Anything below 55 is like PR conditions. Like you are excited about those conditions, right? You're like, yes, let's go. 60 is really the degree dew point that things start to change. So 60 to 64 degrees dew point, that is, you're going to expect your race times to be slower. 65 to 69 degrees, you're going to expect hard efforts to feel more difficult. 70 to 74 degrees, which I just recently experienced running in Florida last week, and I had a hard speed session. So I can attest to this. I really, and this interpretation is expect pace to suffer greatly, right? Like you are feeling that, and anything greater than 75-degree dew point, the Floridian runners know this, Houston runners, like you guys feel this multiple times throughout the year. I'm thinking about when I was running in Turks and Caicos. I'm going to think about this year's summer vacation in St. Thomas. Like I'm going to be experiencing that where it's like 75-degree dew point and above. You have to adjust your paces because the effort level is going to be so much harder and greater. So think about those numbers, think about that interpretation. The main point and the moral of the story is, as Lou said, your body can't cool itself like it normally does. That's the protective response, separates us from the other quadrupeds, as Dr. Mahdi talked about and Jeff Galloway talked about. That's the beauty of what we do, is we sweat. And it helps cool our body, and we just can't do that if the dew point's too high. And sometimes it's just luck of the draw. Unfortunately, when your race day lands on the day when the dew point's high, and especially as that temperature rises with the dew point high, it's like a recipe for disaster if you don't adjust your paces. So thank you for that clarity. Anything else you want to add to that before we get to the next question?
Just a quick addition is just in terms of weather affecting the performance. Yes, dew point, wind, but the other thing about same temperature, that same dew point, whether it's sunny or not, make a huge difference, because we cannot ignore there's heat radiation, especially when you go to high altitude. Usually it's cooler, dew point can be low, but you are closer to the sun, and if that's a clear day, clear sky, you get a significant heat radiation from the sun, and that can make a huge difference depending on how sunny it is and how close you are to the sun, say if you are at altitude. And that can differ, say in terms of dew point, it may make it feel 10 degrees or 20 degrees higher if there's a sun or without the sun. So that also affects the performance as well. So dew point plus you want to see whether it's sunny or cloudy.
Excellent. Thank you for mentioning that. The radiant heat from the sun will increase our skin temperature.
A lot. Yeah.
So great point. Thank you for making that point. All right. Next question we have is, I have seen on my weather app several times that the air quality is not safe or it is unhealthy. When I see that, should I take a rest day? I do not have access to a treadmill.
Well, it depends how bad it is. If that's super, if let's say if that's you cannot see people 6 feet away, that's probably too unhealthy to run outside. In that case, do a rest day. You can do some active recovery. You don't have to run a treadmill. I do run in place. I guess people will hate that, but that's what I do when I don't have a treadmill. You
Only
can do
Coach
cross
Lou
training.
would do run in place. I do remember when you were doing that during COVID too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
ran in place for 4 hours. It's pretty crazy.
Oh my goodness, Lou.
So be
You're too funny.
creative, be resourceful. It can be crazy, but we all kind of crazy in different ways. And by doing that, I still try to keep my cadence 180 per minute, and running in place, super boring, but I still did it. If that's just slightly unhealthy, I mean, you can't expect that to be great day all the time. So just be a little careful, and depending how bad it is, if you have a bad week for the entire week, then you may need to talk to your coach, change a plan. If just 1 or 2 days, you can shift your plan differently, so that you don't breathe heavily on the crazy toxic smoke with your tempo run. You inhale a lot of polluted particle. That's gonna this is a healthy runner. We want to be healthy. If that's inhaled in that much particle, it's not going to be healthy. Or if you want to wear a mask that kind of filter it, but then it's not going to be easy run either. So depending how bad it is, we have different approaches. And depending how bad it is, and whether that's a long term or short term. Short term, we move plans around. Long term, we may have to change something, or you do something crazy like running place or swimming, biking, or something just to get it done. So all different options. Be resourceful.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to that, Lou, is just planning ahead of time sometimes helps, right? So if you do know that the air quality is going to be bad for the next couple of days, typically there's a part of the day where it's the best. Right. And just trying to adjust your schedule as best as possible to get outside during that time period.
Yes.
So whether it is early morning or whether the winds are changing in a certain direction, right? Like usually they're kind of telling you when your meteorologist is describing the weather of like when is the safest time to go out. So it just might require a little bit more planning and readjusting your schedule to be able to get a run in. But I would also echo Lou's point about speed work. Those are the times where you just need to modify the plan and not do any speed work. If anything, do shorter, easier runs that you're not exposed outside for as long, just to almost maintain some fitness during this time period, and then just know that it will pass, right? And then make the adjustments to the plan, right? So if let's just say you were following a plan and you weren't working with a coach, and it planned for a cutback week next week or the week after that, then you know what, the air quality was bad this week. This was the cutback week. So now you need to readjust your plan to actually modify the next 2 weeks of your plan. So I would say though, if it's just not safe. And then the other thing I'll add to that as well that I just thought about is it depends upon your level of health and any comorbidities. So do you have a history of asthma, right? Like, do you have any respiratory conditions? Do you have cardiovascular conditions? Like, depending upon your medical history, it certainly wouldn't be safe for you to be out in those elements. So we kind of answered it initially that you don't have any underlying comorbidities or medical conditions. But obviously, if you do, always seek your personal medical doctor for advice on when to go out, depending upon air quality.
I do see people running with mask on. It's fine if you're going really slow, but when you're going doing speed work, it's impossible. And the mask can only do so much too. Okay.
Yeah, great points. So next question is, what is heat exhaustion and what are the warning signs that I should be on the lookout for? And what should I do if I notice any of those signs?
I thought this is one of the CPR first aid questions, which we're gonna train again tomorrow. So you wanna answer it now?
We're going to get recertified. I know I should have actually looked this up in advance because I forget all of the exact. So heat exhaustion leads to more of the really red flag medical emergency of heat stroke. So you don't want to get to heat stroke. I know that. And we don't want to stop sweating, and where you start getting really clammy and you get cold. And right, like that's the extreme medical, like you need to be like going to the hospital. We definitely don't want to get there. I know we don't want to get to heat stroke, but heat exhaustion, I know we are still sweating, actively sweating. You're probably having a headache. You're probably getting dizzy. I didn't look up any of the other signs and symptoms in advance, so my apologies for that. But I think the big thing is like you guys know your bodies, right? And if it's something that you haven't experienced on a normal training run, especially a hard training run, or you're doing speed work, or at a previous race, I can go back to some of my earlier Young and Dumber Duane races when I was in my 30s still, and I was considered young and dumb. And I remember doing a 5K in July. It was a great 5K, great organization, Pettit Foundation here in Connecticut. And I remember that race specifically because I was definitely like dazed and confused at the end and stumbling everywhere. My wife kind of grabbed me and like dragged me over to a shaded area tent. And yeah, I don't really remember much for a good 10 minutes after that race because it was a 5K. I was going all out effort, and it was a really hot day and it was really humid. It was in July, and I was probably bordering the walking the fine line there of heat exhaustion. And there's been some other Young and Dumber Duane races that I remember getting to that point. But yeah, those are the things you really don't strive to obtain at a race. And again, Young and Dumber Duane didn't know about proper hydration, electrolytes, and really you have to adjust your effort level in extreme elements and extreme heat.
I can add one experience for me too. One day I was running, a hot day I was running, then I realized that at some point I lost conscious for a little bit. I'm still running, everything's fine, but I kind of, for a moment, I kind of forget where I was and which mile I was at and where this location is. Sounds like it's my head is black out for a little bit. So that's abnormal. So anything like that can be a sign of heat exhaustion. The other thing is that when I was pacing, I saw this girl that's looking not so good. Like she's slowing down and running not so straight. And they say, "Are you running a marathon?" And then she said something totally different. I'm no, I asked, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm running a half marathon." So that's clearly some sign that something's happening. So if you see someone's there, so it's for you or someone else, you can help them too. Just call help or something. So anything that looks strange, that's not normal, we have to be careful. It's okay to make a run easier, but in the long term, in the long run, pun intended, we want to be healthy. We not keep going. 1 or 2 runs is fine to make it easy, but any signs that's not normal. It's you kind of know what is when you push hard. It's regular pain or something just not right. So listen to your body. Like Duane
Yeah,
said.
I would agree. And now that I had some time to do a little Dr. Google research, I will share with everyone. I pretty much got it spot on. That was pretty good off the top of my head here. So these are the signs and symptoms: heavy sweating, pale, clammy skin. We mentioned that. A fast but weak pulse. So your heart's like racing essentially, right? Like your heart rate is super, super high.
Right.
One I didn't mention is nausea and vomiting. Right. So if you are really nauseous and you are vomiting, muscle cramps could also be a sign. Granted, muscle cramps without those other symptoms could be muscle cramps during a hard effort race.
Mm-hmm.
Dizziness, I kind of mentioned that. Headache, I mentioned that. Elevated body temperature, I guess that goes without saying, right? And then decreased urine output. But most of it, like for me at a race or something, that's like hard to tell, right? Most of us don't have to pee anyway at a
Right.
race. So that one's a little tougher. And then I guess, if someone does vomit more than once and their symptoms worsen or last longer than an hour, like you need to seek immediate medical attention. All right. And yeah, the kind of the
Yes.
recommendation is to really go to a cooler place. Like I mentioned, going under a tent, shaded area, preferably an area with air conditioning, which is going to be hard for most of us who are running. But if you're running by a building, if you're running, in a public area, can you go inside into air conditioning? Loosen up your clothing, apply cool, wet cloths, or have them sit in a cool bath, and then just sips of water. So you don't want to like guzzle water, but just giving some sips of water. And then the other thing that Dr. Mani Alabi mentioned also is it's more of like you're so hot, but you also have
Mm-hmm.
goosebumps. So like that's kind of weird, right? Because usually when we sweat and when we're hot, we don't have goosebumps. So that could be another thing where your skin is now like cool and it has like goosebumps. So those are all kind of the signs and symptoms. Like I said, if that progresses, then that's like heat stroke. Like that is when your body stops sweating altogether. Yeah, you definitely do not want to get there at all. So not to scare anyone, because I know that sounded very, very scary. But it is just, you have to be smart. And we're going to talk about, if we don't get into strategies today, we'll definitely talk about hydration strategies with Brooke and just being smart and planning ahead and modifying your run, modifying your training, modifying the long runs during these summer months. So yeah, let's get to the other heat related question is, when it is too hot to run outside, when should I take advantage of the treadmill for my summer training?
Too hot depends on what's your based on your previous experience. It's too hot means it's individual, but in general, it's sudden change for whatever you are comfortable with. If that's you're comfortable through training, you can say you gradually get used to running at 80 degree. Then suddenly you go to this 100 degree. That's way too hot. But if you only used to run at 50 to 50 degree perfect weather and suddenly you go to 70 degree, that can be too hot. So it just, when it's too hot, that means it just sudden change, significant change in temperature or dew point or the radiation in heat in general. So that's when it's too hot. Sudden change, big change, that's too hot. If you move from the north to the east, so the south, something like that too.
Yeah. So when it is, I guess, that extreme difference, but then when do you think someone should take advantage of using the treadmill? Let's say it is too hot. What runs during the week would you prioritize for your athletes?
If they do have access to a treadmill, and you sometimes that weather can change 20 degrees just normally, even if you stay in the area. So if you have that and you have a hard workout schedule that cannot be moved, so you have to do a hard workout on a hard day that's suddenly way worse than before, then definitely go to treadmill. As much as we hate treadmill, that's what this is for. You can keep going, because when it's that hot, unsafe to go outside, and it's okay, maybe okay to do easy run, but when you do something really hard, the body temperature rises higher too. Then use your treadmill.
Yeah,
So
and I would
workout
also,
plus when
yeah,
it's
the workout, right?
significant. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say prioritize, if you are doing any quality days or
Mm-hmm.
speed work in your training, again, you might need to plan ahead of time, adjust if you know it is going to be too hot on the Tuesday and Wednesday of, the week when you're looking in advance, then, plan that out. If you normally do track Tuesdays, or if you
Maybe
do
switch.
tempo Tuesday, exactly, switch it to the Monday before the warm front comes through your area, even if it's not ideal that you only had 2 days or 1 day between your long run and your faster day. It might be better for you that week because of the hot weather, and or needing to, if you have to get it in and it's hot, then really prioritize getting in the faster stuff on the treadmill, so then you can do a nice slow and easy. Don't care about pace, but if it is too hot, as you kind of said in your question, then just go out there, super easy run, take walk breaks if you need, take extra hydration, take extra electrolytes with you, and extra shading elements, gear that we'll get into, things that are going to protect your skin, protect you to try to stay cooler. So there are all different strategies that we can utilize to kind of help cool our bodies. And those are always easier to be able to implement those on those easy days. So I would say really prioritizing the faster stuff and or moving your long run. I don't know about you, Lou. I could never think about doing a long run on the treadmill, and I just give anyone credit to those that are doing long runs on the treadmill. You talk about winter training, how we started this conversation today, and all like the Boston runners, right, need to do a lot of their stuff on the treadmill if they're in a cold weather climate and they can't do a long run outside when it is, 5 degrees outside and or there's ice or snow out on the on the paved areas. So they need to get those long runs in. But yeah, for me, I would definitely prioritize trying to shift things around. And when it's too hot, do the shorter, easier stuff if you need to on the treadmill, or the faster stuff, and try to move that long run around so you can be able to do it outside. Unless you just really love like watching a good movie and pound out 3 hours watching like Titanic on the treadmill, and time will just like fly by for you. Then yeah, more power to you. All right, next question. I'm training for an early September marathon that is typically extremely humid on race day. I live in a humid summer climate, but have to do weekday runs on a treadmill. What can I do to simulate uncomfortable conditions such as high humidity indoors?
Well, you don't have to be uncomfortable every day. So you can have 1 or 2 easy days a little cooler to allow your body to recover. But if you do want to simulate those hard days, there are ways. You can wear extra layers. There are people who wear those sweatsuits, which I don't really. Which there are debates about the sweatsuit. Essentially, just a film of plastic that doesn't allow the sweat to evaporate, but that can lead to heat exhaustion. So there's some debate on that, but there are ways you can say, even if that's relatively cool inside, you dress as if you're running in winter, then it's gonna be really hot. So you can simulate it.
Yeah, I would say definitely that's an option. And I would just refer you to our heat acclimation episode as well, 229 on the Healthy Runner podcast, because we talked about doing it gradually and, starting as a beginner heat acclimation and then intermediate advance, and not going to the extreme of, wearing the sweatsuit for like an hour run and, or pushing pace, right? Like starting with the easier runs, shorter duration, and exposing your body gradually,
Yes,
to more of that hotter environment. And I've been doing that and implementing that strategy for the last like 3 or 4 weeks, actually, as I kind of getting ready for my half marathon race, which is this weekend, because it was in June, second weekend. And I'm like, you know what? There's a chance it can be very hot on this day. So I didn't want to get surprised race day. So I started some of the heat acclimation. That episode I recorded with Dr. Mani Alavi was actually like a month before it aired. So I started implementing some of those strategies after our chat. And then also knowing I was spending a week in Florida, that was going to help me and really get heat acclimated. And plus, I didn't want to be like, culture shock and like, totally smacked in the face with the heat, because it feels like of 100 when I was down there. So that was helpful. And even I think you made another good point, Lou, in that you don't need to do it every day. And Dr. Mani talked about this as well, is we can, be able to do it like once every 3 days, and you're still going to maintain that. So like everything that I was doing prior to my trip to Florida, the week that I was running in Florida, now this week leading up to my race, I am going to actually, so the last 2 days I didn't, but tomorrow I'm going to overdress for my run. So I'm hotter and I sweat more, just so I maintain another day of like, the hotter elements, and my body adapts to that, just in case on race day Saturday morning, if the dew point's high and the temperature gets a little higher than I would like it to be, then it's not going to have that much of an impact on my performance.
Right.
So I think all those things are helpful to keep in mind. And obviously, if you can be able to put a treadmill where there's not air conditioning indoors, then that would also help you simulate some of those warmer conditions. So last question for kind of weather heat wise, what is the impact of heat on the body and humidity? How much is too much electrolytes? And how do I stop annoying my family by ruining summer Sundays by doing pre-dawn long runs and then having to nap during the day? Smiley face. Claire, thank you so much for submitting that question. I totally laughed when I read that question. And yeah, Lou, what do you have to say to that? I'm going to give kind of one take home message from that, but anything you would like to add? I don't think we need to get into deep dive specifics, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the impact of heat, kind of humidity, we kind of mentioned that, just stress to the body. The electrolytes we can leave to brook. Essentially, you can drink. I never see people overdrink electrolytes. You just add more, listen to your body. The funny question, which we can kind of relate, is that you have to communicate. Really, you just have to communicate. You clearly lay out, this is my passion, and I'm gonna do this, but because this is important to me and important for family. So really communicate. That's the key, really. You don't have to do that every day. It's long run, only once a week, and that day you may shift the other activity a little bit, but then just communicate so you can get it done. It's only one day. You should be fine.
Yeah, and Claire, I would say to your point in napping during the day, I remember that I had to do that frequently in my earlier days of half marathon training, and even before I got into marathon training. But really, once I optimized kind of the 6 steps to growing as a runner that we talk about so frequently, especially the nutrition bucket and the recovery bucket, and the run element in terms of keeping the effort level where it needs to be, I never had to nap on long run days anymore. Granted, do I have like the most energy? No, right? You're going to feel definitely a little lethargic for those long runs that are really kind of pushing things. But the napping element, make sure that you are hydrating and electrolytes and fuel before, during, and after. And Brooke is definitely going to get into more details with this. But once I really started doing that, and even before, meaning the night before, right? And making sure you pre-hydrate and electrolytes, like we talk about for race day, like you're going to do for your marathon, you need to be implementing that on all of your long runs. Yeah. So you don't feel as lethargic, like that you have to like nap and be like, hey family, I got to call timeout. Like mom's going to go inside and just nap. Don't bother me. Like I don't think you'll need to do that if you are making sure that you're keeping your effort level during that long run where it should be. And that would be like a 6 out of 10 if you're not doing speed work and you're not doing, as Coach Lou says, a long run with spice, right? It's not a quality day. You're not adding pace work into your long run. Then it should be at a 6 out of 10 effort. You shouldn't be going to an 8 or a 9 out of 10 effort, especially in the summer and the heat. And then the whole other point to that is the heat acclimation, right? Like, have you allowed your body to adapt to the demands of warmer summer running? And make sure you don't just go from like not acclimating to like now you're pushing your body and now it's 90 degrees outside. So all of those variables will play a role where I don't think you will need the feeling of like, hey, I'm totally shot and I can't even like, I'm like a zombie to my family. Because I do remember feeling like that, honestly, when I trained for my first marathon. I definitely felt like that, where I was just like a waste to society that day. And yeah, really try to really get a little bit more precision and focus, clarity, and implementation with dehydration, fueling, and electrolytes. I think that will help you greatly, honestly. And then the other thing is the recovery right after the long run, I think is key. And allowing your body to totally decompress, going to a cool area, elevating the feet, doing a foot bath, lounging, relaxing, like do some meditation, really allow your mind to just like recover from that hard effort, I think is key versus hustle bustle. We're like out the door, we're going to this, we're going to that. It doesn't allow like the recovery. So then like you crash in the afternoon. Right. And that's why it's definitely been a game changer for me with my long runs when I was able to shift that with my schedule being a little bit more flexible, where, I would always shift it around. I wouldn't do it when I used to be teaching and I'm like in the lab all day. I wouldn't do a long run, then go stand on my feet for like, 6 hours and be teaching and my brain's totally on 100% of the time. It would be on the days I was working home virtually where I could actually sit and I could actually like change positions, and it's a little more low key day. So all those things I think will be helpful for you as you tackle summer marathon training, but you can do it. So I want to give you that as it doesn't need to be terrible and it doesn't need to suck. And hopefully we're providing some hope for those of you who are tackling maybe your first marathon training cycle and you're doing in the fall and you're like, hey, I got to train in the summer, and you tuned into this. There are things and strategies that you can do to kind of modify. And that's a good segue to kind of talk about training now. And let's get to the training bucket of questions that we did get. And first one is, how do I run safely in the dark? Where I live does not have street lights and the sidewalks are very limited in most areas. I need to run before it gets too hot. What do you recommend? So for those in the southern hemisphere here, southern part of the U.S., it gets hot early. Floridian runners, I know, often are getting out there before the sun rises because you have to. From what Lou mentioned before too, is like the radiant, heat that you get from the sun. So it does help if you can get it during the dark. But what are your thoughts in running safely in the dark, Lou?
Well, Coach Cat has a whole episode about running safety. I just want to add a little bit. There are different kind of safety. First is the neighborhood safe. That's one. Then if that's the neighborhood you've been running all the time, then it's about how can other people see you. That's kind of safe. So from the motorcyclist or from the cars. So then we can have this nose gear that lights you up. It's a vest that it's really bright, so people can see you from way, way, way afar. And then the other things, this is for visibility, but also about whether you trip. And the nose gear also have a light, so you can see the ground as well. So all these things. Different kind of way of safety. We can refer to Coach Cat's episode in the link.
Yeah, I would totally agree. If it's, it's not safe for you to run in the dark by yourself because the neighborhood that you live in is just not you don't feel comfortable, then there's not much you can do about that besides running with others. And then the visibility piece is key. And I do find that usually earlier, when there's not a lot of cars on the road, it's almost safer because there's not a lot of traffic anyway. And as long as you're lit up, and I use Knox gear, and it has a little spotlight to be able to see the floor as well, your feet when you're running. So that is super helpful. So those are key, and that's how we get all of our runs in here in Connecticut in the winter. All my runs are pretty much in the dark because I go out before the sun rises. So you can do it. It's manageable. You can get it done. Next question. After my runs in the summer, especially the longer runs, I'm not hungry for hours. What do you recommend?
Same here. You won't be, if you run really, really hard. When we run hard and long, our body prioritize the blood supply to the muscles so you can run. So it's more efficient. That increase your running efficiency. But that also means your stomach and other less important organs, that's important in terms of running, are shut down. So that's why we usually have stomach issues during a long run or marathon or something crazy, something long and hard. Yes, it's totally possible. You should be very hungry, but you don't feel it because the digestive system is shutting down. And for that, I would say you may not feel ready to eat anything solid, but you can drink something. You have a shake, have some carb and protein, just drink it. And even though you don't feel like you need, but your body will need it, because that right after the hard long run, especially a hard long run, your body's blood sugar is reaching the lowest level, and the enzyme in your body is calling for rebuild. It's actually the most active level right after the long run. So that's the best time. We usually say within half an hour window. It's crucial for recovery to get something in. Mostly carb, but a little bit of protein. I think it's like a 10% or something, 5% protein compared to carb, something ratio compared to for that. But just mostly carb, a little protein. And if that's solid, you cannot eat solid, then just have a shake or something.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And this is totally normal, by the way. As Lou mentioned, everyone experiences this, so you're not alone. And I think the summer heat also is a factor, because I don't know about you guys, like we're big beachgoers, right? Like I'm never like hungry on the beach. I think like feeling hot as well, I think plays a role, especially in the summertime, where you're not only, did you have this hard effort and the blood flow was channeled to the musculoskeletal system, but you're also hot, so you're not really hungry. But it's so important. And this kind of goes back to Claire's question before, because I don't think I mentioned that either. For her feeling better for recovery, I mentioned like legs up, foot bath, that's up, but I didn't mention nutrition. That's key. And like Lou said, the things I've found that are helpful is, yes, you can do liquid. And then also, like, you don't need a chug, right? Take sips, take smaller sips, just every minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, take a sip. And you can train your body to be able to eventually tolerate it, just like we can train our gut to actually fuel during your run. And fuel before your run, same thing after the run. And, I just prioritized it for the last 2 to 3 years. And now it's so much easier where I can be able to take in nutrients after. Just, you don't need to go crazy with a huge meal right after, just because your gut's going to not like that. And think about easily digestible foods. Like those are going to be the best bet, almost like the foods we talk about before a race, the foods we talk about the night before. That's also the foods that are going to be better and easier for your gut to digest after your run, when it doesn't have a lot of blood supply going to your gut yet. So, try to keep it simple. Don't get crazy with like spicy and high fiber foods, right? Like keep it easily digestible foods, simpler carbs, get the protein in. You need that for the muscles, for the rebuilding, as Coach Lou said. And start with smaller portions, and, go back every 20 minutes if you need to, and eat a little bit more, almost like think of snacking. And then after an hour or two, get in like a meal, right? Like make sure you get a meal in. But yeah, try to get something in. It will just kickstart that recovery process. And honestly, you will feel better later in the day because you were able to actually start to kickstart the recovery process. And I found at least like a huge decline in headaches that I would get on those hot, long summer runs. I used to get those all the time, every time. But as I've been able to fuel, hydrate, electrolytes after the runs, I found that really helps with headaches.
I want to add a little bit. You mentioned electrolytes. A lot of time when our body is dehydrated, or if you just drink water without electrolytes, you will feel more, your appetite will be even worse. So sometimes it's a sign that your body is dehydrated. If you just drink a lot of water without electrolytes, so something's body is not functioning. So what we talk about is that specific for why the digestive system is not functioning. But it's possible that because we don't have enough water or enough electrolytes, the entire body is not functioning well, and that it's a more warning sign. That is, in that case, you definitely need to drink even more electrolytes and water plus the carbs and protein. So be careful. It may be a sign if you feel like extra low appetite compared to before. It may be a sign that you are dehydrated.
Perfect. Thank you for mentioning that. All right, Lou. Everyone came strong with the question, so we're going to need to start going a little bit more rapid fire. So I'm going to try to keep my commentary to a minimum here. I'm going to try to rapid fire these to you. All right. Why did I pick a summer marathon? What was I thinking? No, seriously. What is the best type of fabric to wear during the summer months?
Tech fabrics that they are designed to whip the sweat away. Why do we pick summer marathons? I don't know. I pick it too, just because they're fun, because it's a community, and they're all different reasons. But tech is what we're gonna wear, and depends. Yeah, actually, from Marnie's web episode, you want to wear something that's light, so reflect the sunlight, rather than something dark that absorbs the sunlight. And yeah, that's what you can do. So and layers, if you even have layers, right?
Yeah, light colors, breathable fabrics that wick away the sweat. Definitely no cotton. You don't want to do cotton at all. That's just going to like seep on your skin and just sit there or hang when you're like dripping in sweat. That's going to weigh you down. So the lighter the fabric, the better. The lighter the colors, the better. And yeah, as Mani mentioned, sometimes that could actually even help with, as Lou mentioned before, the radiant heat from the sun to actually have on like arm sleeves or even calf sleeves versus just your skin. That might actually help keep you cooler. So perfect. All right. I just listened to the podcast where you talked with Jeff Galloway, and I started peppering in quicker, shorter turnover in my cadence per the guidance to reduce injury risk. Awesome. Love it. My question is, how should I use this in my marathon training when I'm supposed to be going at a slow, easy pace? Does it just become the new normal and easy pace for me, or do I incorporate it differently? Thanks in advance. So this is a great question. What do you say to this question, Lou?
We kind of have mentioned something similar before, that cadence there's a magic number or not, but it's totally possible that when you run hard, the cadence goes up. When you run easy, cadence go down. But eventually, it's going to be somewhat stabilized in a region, and that's all fine. If your cadence is really low for all the runs, then we have to worry about something else to train for the cadence. But if you just say, when you run easy runs, the cadence is 160. When you run hard runs, 175. Then it's not too bad. So you don't have to overthink about it. So if that's all the cadence are low, then probably some muscle imbalance or some strength weakness. Then we have to worry about that. But in terms of just doing the cadence for cadence, there's only so much you can do. You can train if you already have a pretty high cadence. You can train to have a higher cadence on the easy run using some app, metronome. But I would say if you have low cadence, just slightly lower than your normal runs, there's no problem. But if there's some significant low cadence for all the runs, you may want to worry about muscle issues, imbalance, and other things that may lead to it, and then fix it.
Yeah, a couple of great points in this question I want to highlight is, number one, you mentioned in my marathon training, I'm supposed to be going at a slow, easy pace, question mark. Yes, I would say, especially for your first marathon or if you're a novice marathoner and the goal is a long run or an easy run, then yes, you are correct. The other point that you mentioned is when we manipulate the variable of cadence, we are changing the steps per minute, and we're basically changing the computer program in our brain to have our legs go at a quicker turnover time. In the beginning, when you try to do that, it's natural for you to run faster. That's not the goal. And it takes time to reprogram the computer. And like Lou said, there are things you can use, metronome app, you can do songs at a certain cadence. It takes time. So that's the thing I want to kind of mention is it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes time to master a higher cadence, but maintain your speed at a slower speed, if that makes sense. Because as Lou mentioned, whenever we run faster, automatically our cadence increases. It just happens naturally. So the trick is to actually get your body to adapt to a faster leg turnover during an easy effort run, which is hard to do. I remember working at Lou. I remember running with you literally like 3 years ago, and we had talked about this, and I was trying to like increase my cadence, and it took me like a lot of work during my easy runs just to check in. And you shouldn't perseverate. Don't stress about it. Don't think, I usually have my clients like put in the custom screen on their Garmin that actually has cadence, so you can check in on real time during an easy run and just see where it is. And let's say it's in the 150s and you're looking to increase it a little bit, just try to increase it by 4 or 6. Don't try to increase to 170 because you're not going to be successful. It's not going to happen. You can't change the program in your brain that much different because you're going to run faster. And then your effort level is going to be out of the zone that it should be for your marathon training, as you mentioned in the question. So I think my biggest point and take home here is, especially if you're a beginner marathoner, prioritize effort level right now.
Yeah.
Eventually, you can focus on cadence and think about incremental changes in your cadence and just trying to improve it just a little bit. Just try to improve it 4 to 6 steps per minute, really, honestly, during this training cycle of marathon training. It's not going to improve greatly. So some great question there. I love that it had multiple factors that we've talked about in the past. So let's get to the next one. How much should I slow my paces during the summer months? I have heard that I should focus more on effort than pace during the hot months, but I want to know if there is a guide or basis for adjusting my paces. Great question. What do you say to this, Coach Lou?
Well, you have the chart there. You can calculate the pace, how much you can slow. But also, that's when the RPE comes handy. You can use RPE instead, and it's a rating of perceived exertion. For those who doesn't know what RPE is, it just essentially same effort level, but you just naturally, to keep that same effort level, you slow down a little bit, but keeping the same effort level, you don't, instead of focusing on pace itself. That being said, that's when we're talking about mostly easy runs that doesn't have a pace requirement. If you're doing some workout that does have pace requirement, then depending on what kind of workout, say if that's a short, let's say 100, 200, 400, you may be able to just do that workout and just use some extra way to cool you off, say the wet towel or something afterwards, but still hit the pace, because we also want to focus our leg turnover. If you slow down the leg turnover, your body still not learn to move fast. So that in that case, you may be able to still keep the pace, And the RPE level is going to be 9 to 10 anyway, so it doesn't change that much, and it's short, so that's possible. You don't slow down much during that particular short times of fast workout. But for other workout that's supposed to be easy, you keep the RPE. Well, something a little intermediate is about something long and hard tempo workout, marathon workouts. Then you may, it also depending on how bad the weather is. If just slightly bad, you may be able to find a better time of day. You plan hard, a different day, different time of day, different, some say different terrain, say treadmill to get it done. Still keep the same pace. If there's none of these option, you may have to adjust it. But ideally, you want to keep the leg turnover. So ideally, you want to keep it the same pace. But marathon pace, when super long, then you may have to adjust RPE. So there's a combination of both, but you try as much as possible to keep that small hard sections that at close to the pace as you prescribed.
All right. In the effort of trying to get to all the questions in training, I'm going to just zip my lip. I think you answered that great. Next question. Should I still be doing the same type of workouts throughout the summer? I do a lot of speed work during a typical week. Should I adjust that during my summer training?
We kind of say about that for the last question too. It just speed work, usually two or three speed work during the week. And depending on what kind of speed work it is, how much is affected by heat. If that's just short speed, it's probably fine. If that's long, then you want to adjust it. You can do treadmill, you can cool you down, and you may take longer break. So all these different things.
All right. So those are the ways that you can adjust. All right. Next question. The marathon I'm training for is pancake flat. I'd prefer not to do all boring flat long runs. Is it okay to mix in some hilly long runs? I think this would be like a very pertinent question for those that are running Chicago, right? Yeah. What do you say to that, Lou? Since you are running Chicago,
I just answered the exact same questions at least twice in the past few weeks. Yes, the race can be super flat, and where you live can be super hilly. And it's totally fine to train most of the time in a hilly run, but until the last month or 6 weeks, when you start the race specific training, then especially for the long runs, you do want to find the place that's flat. So most of the runs can still be hilly, but for the race specific weeks, the final weeks, we can refer to our race planning about training and everything like that. But the final weeks for the race specific training, especially those long marathon pace runs, you will want to find something that's flat to mimic the race condition. But before that, you can do hills, whatever, no problem. Just for the last few weeks, especially the long runs, that's similar to the marathon. You want to be as close to the marathon as possible. The last few weeks, let's say each long run is a mini practice marathon race. So that's when you want to simulate the terrain.
Excellent. And next question is, I can't always run early in the morning. When is the best time to do my runs? I'm going to steal this one, Lou, because it's a quick answer, right? Like whenever you can get the run in, whether it is indoors or the coolest part of the day, that isn't early in the morning. So find out when the coolest part of the day is, or maybe find out when the sun is setting. Maybe it's a little cooler then. Or if you can get it indoors, that's when you want to get your run in. And then from our girl, Miranda, your client and my former client, she says, should you expect to see a lower heart rate if you keep the majority, example, 80% of the runs easy, even if the easy pace doesn't change? How long does this take? Hoping to really, quote unquote, lock in to slower paces this summer. Thank you, Miranda. I love that you have changed that mindset. And physiologically. So she wants to like reap the benefits physiologically of kind of maintaining that lower heart rate during those easy runs. I need some motivation to see this work. So she's like a type of runner that needs to like see results, right? Like to be motivated to like work on it. I am also looking for strategies on how to keep those paces easy. Yeah. How do you answer that, Coach?
we actually just talked about. We just had a Zoom meeting before this call, so I can
You've
quickly
already
say
answered it. Yeah, give us
yes, but I
Cliff
can
Notes
quickly
version.
summarize so people can learn too. It's this thing was kind of referring to the MAF method, which is super easy run. And as you mentioned that it's in a previous episode, it takes about a year to show the result. So you slow your down easy run to super easy, and it doesn't change. It doesn't show the result until long time later. So if you expect an immediate result, you're not gonna see it. But over the time, you will start to see it. However, in general, you want to keep the easy run easy. You don't want to go to somewhere somewhat easy that's not enough for recovery, but not hard enough as a workout. So that's let's say RPE on scale 1 to 10, 10 being hardest, 1 being the easiest. We want to avoid the middle zone from say RPE 5 to 6, just before the marathon pace, which is RPE 6. So we want to avoid that. And the easy one that we've been usually doing is 4 to 5 or 3 to 5. And when Miranda's originally referring to RP like 2 to 3, that's the super easy runs. It takes a long time for that. When you do that, then the initial pace is going to be super slow. But eventually, that you will keep the same heart rate, the pace will catch up. But that takes a lot of time, and you're not going to see immediate result. So you may actually be discouraged because the heart rate just easily go up if you just start doing that approach.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add to that, Lou, is these past couple of years, in what I've been learning and following from a lot brighter and faster runners like yourself and other coaches that I've learned from, is that as we get quote unquote faster as runners for maybe races, easier runs actually get slower, not faster. So I would just challenge anyone who has this mindset of the outcome isn't actually to get a faster, easy run time.
No.
Right? The outcome is for you to hit whatever running goal you have. And if you're running races, then I'm sure it's to get a PR, right? Or to run faster at a race. So that's the outcome. For me, I look at the easy runs as really stimulating the recovery that the body needs so you can hit the paces for the hard stuff. Yeah. So whether it is the interval, the tempo run, right? Threshold pace, whatever speed work you're doing in your plan and or long runs with pace work in it, so you can hit those quote unquote quality days. That's what the easy run really functions as, is to allow the body to recover properly, so you're not overtraining, and you can work harder on the hard days, right? Yeah. So like think about just creating more dichotomy: hard days hard, easy days easy. So I would just kind of challenge the mindset shift, and to maybe not be motivated for goal wise to eventually be doing easy runs in, if you're like me, I run easy runs in the 10-minute pace. Even some days, if it's really hard, you'll see me in like 11s. My goal is never to run an easy run in the 8-minute range. Like, I could care less what my easy run pace really is, tell you the truth. It's I want to see my marathons get faster. I want to see my half marathons maybe get closer to, my PRs of 10 years ago. I would love to be able to see that.
Yeah.
So I would just think about maybe just changing the mindset a little bit and reframing the outcome. Like, what is the outcome that you want? Is it a faster race time? Is it to stay healthy during a training cycle and not have nagging injuries, right? Like, the easy run is essentially getting in, working the aerobic engine, the base, yes. And whether or not you see a result in your easy run pace is one thing I guess you could debate. But for me, I think of it as to allow recovery for the body and to allow you to increase volume during the week, get more miles in, tolerate more time on your feet, right? Like, adapt to the demands of running, so you can do those other runs. So that was the only thing I could add to that.
Agree.
And then last question, Lou, and then we're going to wrap this puppy up. You guys came hard with the question. I love these questions. By the way, I didn't mention this at all, but in our show notes where you're listening to this, you can always drop your questions in. I have a link in there that you can just submit your question, and then we'll get your question on the next Ask the Coach episode, Ask Duane episode that we do. So if you're like, wow, this was like great questions, and I have this question, I'm like, want them to answer it, then drop it in the link wherever you're listening to this, and we just compile those, and then we'll answer it on the next episode. Last question. Zone 2 feels very tricky as it seems very dependent on sleep, stress, menstrual cycles, fueling. So the paces can be all over the place. What do you say, Lou?
That's why we use RPE. The pace is a number, but RPE is the effort level. We want to keep the same effort level based on whatever condition, the weather, sleep, stress, menstrual cycles, fueling, everything. Although fueling is what we can control, but that's something we're not going to go too deep. Yep. Then you use the same effort level, which called RPE. Then use that to gauge your pace. Especially for the easy runs, you keep the easy effort level. If that's you are not sleeping very well, then say Duane saying 10 minutes per mile feels hard, you end up doing 11, no problem. It's fine.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It is going to be dependent upon all those variables, and we don't live in a vacuum. We don't live in a test tube. Unfortunately, we all have lives, and like life happens. So that's why I personally don't perseverate on the numbers with the Maffetone method and, heart rate zones and like getting super anal about, what number it is saying, because heck no, like last night, my sleep was freaking terrible. I gave a bang up presentation this morning to a group of PTs. And unfortunately I did not get good sleep last night. And it affects how I feel today, and it's going to affect, my run tomorrow morning, I'm sure. Yeah. So, life happens. I wouldn't perseverate on those things because yes, all of those variables that you mentioned will affect, what your zone 2 is, and going by RPE, you really can't go wrong, honestly. And then last quick question that it's almost like a little teaser segue, because I'm actually going to do a full episode on how to prevent plantar fasciitis during your summer running, because it is a common injury that we see with everyone getting into flip-flop season and barefoot season, getting out of your shoes during these hot summer months. The question is, how do you train for a marathon with plantar fasciitis? Is it a good idea? Where does one start? So much that can go into that question, because it's a very loaded question, because we don't know the level of tissue irritability, how long you've been having plantar fasciitis. Is this your first time or your second or third time with plantar fasciitis? Is this your first marathon, or you're an experienced marathoner? All of those will need to be taken into account. That being said, plantar fasciitis is something that you can usually, it is very rare that you need to stop running totally to get over this. And I do help many runners with plantar fasciitis keep running and gradually get back into running. Ideally, this would not be definitely not within 12 weeks of your marathon goal race. So it depends upon when you're starting this journey. Are you looking at base building, then marathon training? Or is your marathon 16 weeks away, 12 weeks away, 8 weeks away, 4 weeks away? All of that depends. And how long you've been having the plantar fasciitis. But if you've been battling it for a while and you're thinking about starting marathon training, I would ask you, have you been doubling down on the strategies that we shared in our plantar fasciitis download? If you don't have that, go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/foot. Or just learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com, and then you'll see the plantar fasciitis download. If you've been doing those strategies for a while and you've been really modifying your running, or you're working with a practitioner who's been helping you, then it is possible to actually still run the marathon. So I don't want to say it's not impossible by any means, but there are all those variables. So yeah, be on the lookout for the episode I'm going to do in a couple of weeks on plantar fasciitis specifically. I'm going to do a kind of an updated episode on that. And then, guys, man, you had a lot of questions. We're going to save the gear questions, all the hydration, all the electrolyte, all of the fueling questions that you asked. There's literally like 10 of them. They're going to all go to Brooke. Brooke's going to like answer those questions in a future episode. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed to the Healthy Runner podcast, it's a great opportunity to actually subscribe. And so you'll be reminded when a new episode comes out every Thursday morning, which it does each and every week. Lou, thank you so much for coming on, sharing all of your marathon knowledge. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you guys love this guy's insight and want to get in his brain and actually have him be able to design your marathon training plan so you can account for all of the variables that we talked about today, because if you noticed, out of Lou's mouth today, it depends a lot of times, right? And that's what we provide clarity on, is really tailoring your marathon training to your specific life situations, your crazy schedule, kids, all that stuff, vacations, right? Like everyone has them in the summer. How do you account for those things? If you want to learn more about working with Coach Lou or anyone on our team, just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And don't forget, get your free marathon blueprint download by clicking the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lou. Greatly appreciate your time and wisdom as always.
I'm so happy to be here.
All right. And thank you guys for listening. As always, we appreciate your support. And if you enjoyed this, if you learned anything, do me a favor. It's really simple. Click the link, share it with anyone you know who's going to be training for a marathon this summer. I'm sure they will learn something that we talked about today, and you can add a little spark to their training for their summer marathon training. Love you guys. Good luck. You guys can train for a marathon this summer. It is possible. We can do this. All right. And wishing you the best for your summer marathon training. As always, let's maintain a strong mind, strong body. Let's just keep on running. Until next time.
Bye.